Whenever we think of God, we almost inevitably think of angels. They are an inseparable part of His divine presence, appearing throughout Scripture as messengers, warriors, and protectors. Their existence is so deeply intertwined with our understanding of the spiritual realm that it's hard to imagine heaven without them. But this raises an important question. Why did God create them? If He is all-powerful and self-sufficient, why does He need angels at all? What role do they serve in His divine plan? Angels were not created as mere servants programmed to carry out God's will without question. Though their freedom is not as vast as human free will, they are still capable of obedience or rebellion, like Lucifer, who turned away from God and led others into darkness with him. So, if even some angels fell, why did God create them in the first place? What purpose do they serve, and what does their existence reveal about God Himself? Today, we will explore why God created angels, what role they play in the spiritual world, and what their existence tells us about God Himself. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and leave a comment. What do you think is the main purpose of angels? Now, let's get started. If God is truly all-powerful, why did He create angels at all? He doesn't require assistance, nor is He limited in His abilities. The Bible affirms this in Acts 17:25. Nor is He served by human hands, as though He needed anything, since He Himself gives to all people life and breath and all things. This truth applies not just to humanity, but also to angels. God did not create them out of necessity. He created them as part of His divine order. Angels are not there to strengthen God or accomplish something He could not do Himself. Instead, they serve as instruments of His will, revealing His authority, executing His commands, and reflecting His glory. Their existence is a demonstration of God's wisdom in structuring both the physical and spiritual realms with purpose and order. God is not a God of chaos, but of perfect order. 1 Corinthians 14:33 affirms this, "For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints." This divine order is reflected not only in the physical universe, but also in the spiritual realm. Angels were created as part of a structured hierarchy, demonstrating God's authority and the way He governs His creation. Throughout the Bible, we see that angels are not random beings acting independently. They operate within a clearly defined structure. Archangels, like Michael, are given leadership roles in battle. Cherubim serve as guardians of God's holiness. Seraphim are found before God's throne, constantly worshipping Him. Regular angels act as messengers and ministers to both God and humanity. This hierarchy reflects the principle that all creation operates under God's authority. Just as the universe follows physical laws set by God, the spiritual realm also follows a divine order. Angels are a visible sign of this order, demonstrating that nothing in God's creation exists without structure and purpose. However, this order was not forced upon them. Even within their hierarchy, angels were given a measure of free will. This is why some chose rebellion instead of obedience, leading to the greatest spiritual conflict in history, the fall of Lucifer and the angels who followed him. One of the primary roles of angels is to serve as messengers between God and humanity. The very word angel, angelos in Greek, means messenger, emphasizing their purpose in delivering divine revelations, warnings, and instructions. Throughout the Bible, we see angels acting as intermediaries between God and people. In Luke 1:11-19, the angel Gabriel appeared to Zechariah to announce the birth of John the Baptist, and later, in Luke 1:26-38, he was sent to Mary to proclaim that she would give birth to Jesus Christ. In Matthew 2:13, an angel appeared to Joseph in a dream, warning him to flee to Egypt to protect the infant Jesus from King Herod's wrath. Angels were also sent to reveal divine mysteries to the prophets. In Daniel 10:12-14, an angel explained to Daniel the meaning of his visions, revealing the unseen spiritual battles taking place behind human history. But angels are not just messengers, they are also executors of God's will. In Genesis 19:1-13, 2 angels came to Sodom to warn Lot before bringing judgment upon the wicked cities. In 2 Kings 19:35, the angel of the Lord struck down 185,000 Assyrian soldiers in one night to protect Israel from destruction. And in Revelation 16:1, we read how angels pour out the bowls of God's wrath upon the earth in the final judgments. Angels do not act on their own authority. They only carry out what God has commanded. They are powerful beings, but they are not independent forces. They exist to fulfill the divine will. Although angels serve as messengers and executors of God's will, their highest and most fundamental purpose is to worship and glorify Him. They are constantly in His presence, offering praise and declaring His holiness. In Isaiah 6:2-3, the prophet describes a vision of the heavenly throne room where the seraphim, angelic beings, stand before God, calling out, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, the whole earth is full of His glory." Similarly, in Revelation 4:8-11, the Apostle John describes how angels and elders fall before God's throne, continuously worshipping Him, proclaiming His greatness, and casting their crowns before Him in submission. Angels do not worship God because they are forced to. They do so because they were created to reflect His glory. Their existence demonstrates that worship is not merely an obligation, but a natural response to being in the presence of the Almighty. Even when angels interact with humans, their worship of God remains central. In Luke 2:13-14, a multitude of angels appeared to the shepherds on the night of Jesus' birth, glorifying God and proclaiming peace on earth. And in Revelation 5:11-12, John saw countless angels surrounding the throne, declaring that Christ is worthy of all honor and power. Angels remind us that worship is at the core of creation. However, their example also teaches an important lesson. Worship belongs to God alone. When the Apostle John, overwhelmed by a vision, fell before an angel in Revelation 22:8-9, the angel immediately stopped him, saying, "Do not do that. I am a fellow servant with you and your brothers the prophets, and with those who keep the words of this book. Worship God." Even though angels are powerful and glorious beings, they never accept worship because they know that only God is worthy of it. But if angels were created to worship and serve, how could some of them have fallen? The answer lies in the rebellion of Lucifer. Unlike humans, their free will was not given for the purpose of moral growth or redemption, but they still had the capacity to choose. This became evident in the greatest rebellion in the spiritual realm, the fall of Lucifer. In Isaiah 14:12-14, we read about Lucifer's prideful desire to elevate himself above God. "You said in your heart, 'I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High.'" Lucifer was not just any angel. He was a high-ranking being, described in Ezekiel 28:12-15 as full of wisdom and beauty, dwelling in the presence of God. However, his pride led him to seek power beyond what was given to him. He was not content to serve, he wanted to rule. This arrogance resulted in his downfall. Revelation 12:4 suggests that a third of the angels followed him in rebellion, rejecting God's authority. As a result, in Revelation 12:7-9, we see a great war in heaven where the archangel Michael and his angels fought against Lucifer, now called Satan, and his followers. They were cast out of heaven and became the demonic forces that oppose God's will. Lucifer's rebellion shows that even angels, created with great power and glory, were not exempt from the consequences of sin. Unlike humans, fallen angels were not offered redemption. Their choice was final, and their fate is sealed. Matthew 25:41 states that hell itself was created as punishment for the devil and his angels. God did not prevent this rebellion because true obedience and worship must be voluntary. If God had made angels incapable of choosing, their worship would have been meaningless. Instead, he allowed them the ability to choose, knowing that his justice would ultimately prevail. Those who remained faithful would forever serve in his presence, while those who rebelled would face eternal judgment. Even in their fall, the rebellious angels serve as a reminder that nothing and no one can overthrow God's authority. His kingdom remains unshaken, and his will is always fulfilled. If God created angels not out of necessity, but as part of his divine plan, then this tells us something crucial. We, too, were created with a purpose. Just as angels were made to serve and worship God, we are also called to live in relationship with him. However, there is one fundamental difference between us and the angels. While they are powerful spiritual beings, they were never given the opportunity to become children of God. Hebrews 1:14 tells us, "Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation?" Unlike angels, we have been offered something greater, redemption through Christ. Angels serve God, but they do not experience salvation the way humans do. 1 Peter 1:12 even suggests that angels long to understand the mystery of God's grace, something reserved for humanity alone. This means that our role in God's plan is not just to serve, but to be part of his family. Through Christ, we are given something angels were never offered: a personal, eternal relationship with God as his children. The existence of angels reminds us that all creation was made to glorify God. But while angels serve him as his messengers and warriors, we have been given something far greater: the privilege of knowing him as our Father. So the question is, if even the angels, who have never experienced salvation, spend their existence worshipping and serving God, how much more should we, who have been given the greatest gift of all? If this video gave you new insight, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. What do you think is the most important role of angels? Stay strong in your faith, and see you in the next video.